Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing live show number 346. Yes, your eyes do not deceive you. That is Mr. In the Wilds. I mean, what are you in the backwoods of Nebraska, up in the hills, shooting deer? Mr. Dean Schmidt, Base Camp Meta. Hi, Mr. Schmidt.
Hello.
For the record, for everyone to know, I had to tease Dean out of the woods. He
He
was up there
totally did.
camping.
Totally did. So Lauren's been trying to get me to come on and do a Metasearch show now for I don't know how long, and my fault actually that I haven't done it. And then I see the invite yesterday that came out about today's topic being on Metasearch. I'm like, okay, come on, I can't not be a part of that.
Especially since most of what I'm going to say is, in fact, either learned from you or have been discovered by being with you doing what we've been doing together with Metasearch. So, the fact that I had to kind of call you out in a quiet, subversive, flare gun kind of sort of way. Uh,
Subtle.
yeah, but I do know we have limited time for this, so
Yeah.
I want to dive right into the topic on this. Let me first lay the groundwork on one thing, and that is the premise of this show was literally because of what Dean has been doing with me, I should say, about clients that we have, and it really opened my eyes to the notion of what Metasearch has always been perceived as, for even those people that are even aware of it being what it is. That's even a task that, Dean, you could talk to for years. You have been fighting that good fight for a very long time. But then I realized that it isn't so much about, oh, it's on, okay, here's some money, do the thing, and at the end of the month we're going to see how much we make. There's a lot of little details to it, and
Right.
I'm not trying to say to give away the farm on how all these things are done, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the nuances of what gets done. So with that, that's my lead into you, Mr. Dean.
Yeah.
Really open slate of conversations of the devil's in the details. It will, when it comes to Metasearch. So where do you want to put a stick in the sand? Because I can start us anywhere if you want.
Yeah, well, and a lot of directions to go with that. Obviously, the first thing is to get it on and get the connectivity in there to get that distribution rates and availability out there. But then you've got a campaign to manage. And one of the first challenges with that, if you're just starting that campaign, is you know nothing, right? So you have no historic data whatsoever. I don't know what your CPCs are going to be. I don't know what your conversion rate's going to be. I don't know what kind of traffic you're seeing, right? There's no data. I can make some educated guesses, but there is no historic data coming in from day one. So that's the first thing. What are we dealing with? And you only know that after you have it up and live, and you go, oh, hey, guess what? We're getting 3 times as much traffic as what we expected to. Or hey, you're getting more traffic on weekends than weekdays. Or your CPCs are higher or lower than what we expected. There's all kinds of variables that come into play there. And the first challenge to that is getting what I refer to as a statistically relevant data sample. And that can be hard to do. If you're a roadside motel in Montana, probably not a lot of data to go off of there. But if you're a destination hotel in a major market, let's say in Maui or Cancun or even Miami, or even kind of a touristy hotel in a major market, whether it be New York City or Tennessee, Miami, lots of different areas like that. You're going to have more traffic and more data. So the more data we can put together, the better educated decisions that can be made using it. But we have to see what we're working with. So when I go in after the first couple of days, the first thing I want to see is A, am I getting visibility? And then B, subject to A, if I'm not, why not? What is hampering my visibility? It could just be that OTAs are outbidding me and they're willing to pay a higher CPC for the traffic. Okay. Then I have to ask myself that question. Do I want to pay that CPC to get that traffic? Which is then usually answered by the question of, am I getting the bookings off of it? Which is subject then to that conversion rate, right? So I have to look at my conversion rate because somewhere along the way, I don't care how good you are at optimizing, it could be machine learning algorithms and all kinds of things that do a great job. But somewhere, sooner or later, somebody has to make a booking or none of this matters, right? So if that booking isn't happening, now we've got to ask that question, why not? And this is a fight that I've had actually for 10 years or better, actually. And the fact that a lot of booking engines were built based on an assumption that you as a consumer came in the front door of that website. So you came into the website, you looked around for a little bit, you looked at the amenities of the hotel, maybe looked at their restaurant, and all those different things. And they said, okay, now I'm ready to book. And now you're going through that booking process, right? And it may have multiple steps. I'm trying to first show you the rates and availability and the number one drop off point, right? because maybe you don't have availability for the dates in question, or maybe I'm traveling with a family of five and all you have are king bedded rooms, or maybe the rate's just too high. Maybe I don't want to pay $500 per night. I was thinking more $300 per night, whatever it may be. So that's your number one drop off point in that sales cycle. But okay, we make it past that stage, and then we want to upsell, right? We're going to add on flowers or upgraded rooms and those types of things. And there's a number of steps before we get to that final stage, right? Well, in Metasearch, I can skip over a lot of that because in Metasearch, at that point where I click on book, I already know that you have availability for my dates. I already know what the rates are. If somebody's using room bundling, and that's a whole separate conversation, but if they're using room bundling, I can see if the room type that I want is available or not. I've looked at your hotel's pictures. I've looked at the guest ratings for the hotel. I know where you're at on a map. I have an informed practice right now. I have an informed course that I'm taking that says I want to book a reservation. I click on that button. The only thing I should be doing right now is booking a reservation, and I want to do that process. Think about what would Amazon do? Amazon would get you to that checkout as fast as they can, right? And they would know who you are as fast as they can. That should be your number one goal after I've hit that button is I need to know who you are. And that can be anything from getting that first party cookie and first party data, but I want to get your name. I want to know your name and your email address so that just in case you don't finish that booking, I can come back to you and say, hey, you didn't finish the booking, and maybe get you back in there. Whereas you see a lot of booking engines now that go through this process of before I get your name, how would you like to add on this or that? Or I don't even have your name yet, and I'm trying to get your add ons. Your name should be the number one priority in that booking engine. The other priority is that when I clicked on that book button, that landing page that I get to should show me what I clicked on. If it shows me something else, something other than what I just clicked, that's confusing to the consumer, right? Because and even if the rate that you're showing them is lower than what they clicked on, yay, it's lower. But wait a minute, that's not what I clicked on. Can I get that rate?
Mhm.
Right? So anything that causes confusion for that consumer at that stage is going to impact the conversion and the performance of your meta search campaign. Again, think what would Amazon do? They would get that booking as fast as they can, right?
Mhm. You amazingly, you made the points that need to be made. The fun part is that all the reasons of why you said those things, I have a deep connection to the pains of things because to kind of go a little deeper below the this is how it works things is there is internet booking engines, okay, that have ways of doing things, and through just the demand or lack of demand, really, they do them a certain way. Like, okay, we're going to set up a template, and the default is this overlay is always going to land on it because everybody wants some sort of kicker of pop up that says, "Hey, we have this, or we want this, or whatever," or do you have a code that you need to put in, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And when you're first connecting, the logistics of connecting the availability of your inventory to be displayed in Metasearch for the platform usability, you go to the booking template and either it goes to a default template, which is the if anything else hasn't been set up, this is the one you go to, aka default.
yep,
And in the default has these things where all of a sudden there's an overlay, or the default is the inverse of the rates being offered. To your point, team, where I
yep,
came for this thing, okay, you said it's this price. I click on the link, and I'm expecting to see how to get that price, and all of a sudden it's not there, and you got to scroll down because all of a sudden, a $200 rate, you're seeing a $500 rate,
right.
and it's like, what? Feel first off bait and switch, and then for those who are still curious enough to even know if they can find the rate, they'll scroll down and eventually find it. You've lost already some other people that just said, whoa, hey, that ain't right, click
Yep, I'm
gone.
done.
Yeah,
Right.
and you just wasted the money to get them there, and you wasted the opportunity to go over and book with them because, as you pointed out earlier, all of the preliminary things of what they would discover about you were already done. They're at that point, that ZMOD of, hey, I'm going to go over and make this acquisition, or look at whether I want to buy this thing, and you failed. So
Yep.
it is that logistics stuff to it that gets caught, the devil in the details thing, where it's like, okay, it gets set up, it's plugged in, okay, we're all done. No, now all of a sudden we get an overlay that's requiring a code. Why is there needed for a code? We don't need a code. It's supposed to go to the rate we offered. Then he goes and he sees the
Yeah.
rate, but the rate has three other rates that might be lower. Why? Because the default allows for those rates to be displayed. So there's a lot of follow through, and I think the part that I want to make, and probably to the affirmation of you, Dean, for what you do as Basecamp Meta, okay, is a lot of organizations are trying to throw into their toolkit. We do Metasearch because they found the resources, like we use our resources, that will allow for that connectivity. That they'll handle that. You just have to provide them what they need, and they
Hmm.
will get you connected to Metasearch. The problem is, depending upon their pricing model, it's usually a set and forget, or they're trying to literally take as much business from what you're doing elsewhere because they're on a commission model. Like the
Yep.
more they sell, the more money they make. That's an incentive, which is great because they're spending money to try to get you money, but they're also going to kind of tramp on your strategies by doing that.
Right.
I'm just throwing those extra little details in.
Yeah. And I see Metasearch players out there now that charge as much as 15% commission on booked, not consumed. 15% commission on booked revenue. And first and foremost, let me grant you the fact that if that is the only way that you can run your meta campaign because you don't have a marketing budget and those different things, do it.
Hmm.
Okay, it's better than not doing it. So it's better than the alternative. All right, let's give it that much. But at a 15% commission, that's equal to probably what you're paying the OTA. Now your only advantage is that you're getting it directly. But one thing I encourage everybody to check on that: are you paying a commission on Google's free organic listings? And I have found several companies, I won't name them, but I have several companies where you are. And that's a
Let,
problem for me.
yeah, let's rewind a little bit. Okay.
Yep.
About what time last year did Google open up the organic? Was it about
March.
It was March. So it has
Yep.
been a year. Okay.
Yep.
This was an eye opener for me. So, which is one of the things I want to make sure I brought up in today's conversation is we started Metasearch with different clients and so forth. And all of a sudden, Dean pops up with this really spectacular report. Well, here's your organic from Google. Do what?
Which I will separate. That has to be a
Right.
separate from your paid, and
Right.
too many of them combine those.
Right.
No, keep
And
those separate.
that's true. We even in our metrics with clients, we even
Yep.
told clients, hey, here's the differentiator. You can see this, we'll send you the report for this, but we're not taking credit for this.
Right.
Okay. This is because you're in this platform. Understand, and then please correct me if I'm wrong. Prior to Google opening up the organic version of Meta, it really was you paid, you showed up. You didn't pay, you didn't show up.
Yep.
Now it's you paid and show up higher, but if you don't pay, you're still showing up in the organic. Granted, it may not priority. Everybody and their brother can sell you if they have affiliate ability to get to your inventory. Um, so you're in kind of the mix, but there is organic value in Google,
Yeah.
okay, for business. And that's the part I think leaning into of the, well, meta search, I don't know. I already am doing digital marketing and I'm doing this and the OTAs do me the if I here's a statement that a writer Liz McGivney, Liz McGivney from Google went over and made a point where she made this statement. What if I told you that there was a risk-free direct booking channel that can drive an average of 8% of total web bookings at an average 5% commission rate? Would you be interested? And it's kind of like, I think I would. And neither of those numbers are off base. Neither of those numbers have I not experienced with working with you, Dean,
Hmm.
because in both circumstances there's three influencing factors that I've identified working with you.
Hmm.
The obviously paid performance return on ad spend kind of thing. They're like, I spent
Hmm.
this much, I made this much. And I'm saying specifically of Google at this point, so let me
Yep.
clarify
Right.
that. Okay. The second is I haven't been spending money, but I've made this money because of the organic representation of this.
Right.
And then the third, which we also don't take credit for, but want to make sure people understand the top line revenue implications, is the commissions you saved from an OTA providing that same booking for you.
Right.
And those
And
three factors. Go ahead, Dean. I'm sorry.
well, and related to that, something a really key point to address with that is too often will hear that, well, you know what? I'll let the OTAs book it. I'll get the reservation from the OTA. If I'm paying 15% commission, I'll just take it from the OTA. That's fine. I'm not worried about the direct contact data and all that stuff. That's a whole different thing. But here's what you don't realize: your conversion rates from the OTAs are not the same as your conversion rates for that coming to you directly. When they click on hotels.com, booking.com, Expedia, any of those OTA sites, they are greeted with your property listing at the top of that list, along with a fine selection of other hotels that hotels.com thinks you'll be interested in.
Hmm.
Hotels.com is incentivized to get a booking, not your booking. Whereas when they click on your link, they're booking you, nobody else. So the
Yeah.
conversion rates are very different.
And I would even add to that that because they control where that goes in their platform, they would be more preferable to sell a more expensive hotel compared to yours if given the opportunity of showing the comparisons of other hotels in your market that would be under consideration. And I kind of lean into my brand friends when I say, when you go to the brand and you're asking the brand to support and sell your hotel because you put their flag over it and you're paying them fees to have brand contribution, it is a very frustrating point when you go there and say, hey, what are you doing for me for advertising? Oh, well, we're making sure you show up in the regional page or the location page. So I am on a page with everybody else in my market they still have to choose from. And yet I'm giving you more money to do that privilege, which is what they do. They say, okay, you want to be featured better on the regional page view. It is very, very hard to make the brand sell just your hotel
Yes.
because brand has the same perception. A booking in their brand is what's important to them, not your booking in the brand.
Well, and
They
that's why a
you
lot
are
of your
research.
brands rolled out their variations of top off programs, right? They all have different names for it, from Level Up to Edge, or wait, what does Hilton call them now? Anyway, they all have a different name, but it's a top off program, right?
Boost. There was
Boost,
boost.
thank you. Yeah.
Yes, and it is now. You can look at it too. There is benefit and ratios to handling it yourself as well. You brought that to my attention, and not just the bid management process, as to looking at how you're getting that traffic and how you're getting those conversions. And from a recent, as of yesterday, fresh off the mill discussion with you, what channel, what platform are they using? Are they using digital direct, desktop, or are they using mobile?
Hmm.
You know, because we were trying to debug something, and without getting too much into the
Yeah.
details,
Yeah.
it was, look at that. Mobile is crushing traffic, but no conversions really
None.
compared to desktop, which is not as much traffic, but greater conversions. And the cost factor of mobile was 2.5 times higher than the direct
It
the
was
desktop.
just too much for no bookings. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right,
It's
and
nice that
being
you're
able
getting
to
traffic,
mitigate them.
but not booking. Yeah,
Right.
and that varies by property, right? So you have to understand what type of a property you are, right? So a luxury resort property, mobile is great for shopping, not so much for booking. Versus the airport hotel, uh, you know what? I'm on the way there. Yeah, I'm probably booking on my mobile. Tick, click, tick. 3 clicks, I'm done, booked, right? So you're going to have differential. You have to know what your demographic is. Who is your audience, and how is your audience booking their reservation?
Yep. And I would say that one thing we haven't truly experienced in today's marketing culture that we had pre-COVID is the international market influence. Because I would say, in all caveat, to say this same resort that we were having this diagnosis on was a heavy international destination travel resort. I would say that, especially from the Asian region, I would say mobile would be a stronger play for us because we probably get the traffic and conversion because mobile usage is different when it comes
Certainly.
to certain cultures.
Yeah.
We haven't really experienced that back into our domestic market quite yet. So we are still facing pretty much the same North American and or United States perception of, I may find it on a phone, but I'm going to probably sit down on my desktop later on a bigger screen and kind of
Right.
poke around and look at it and book. Compared to what most cultures have is the phone is it. The percentage of internet traffic on mobile is 68% plus. It's a rounded number that grows up. So it is and the internet is a mobile world. It's just not everybody uses it to the function culturally that other countries or other regions
Yeah.
of the world do, in the sense of their conversion value of that particular process. But go ahead.
I want to back up a little bit to what you were talking about earlier with the organic versus paid listings, because there's
Sure.
another really key point involved with that too, and that is, number one, there is an inverse relationship between the two. So if you are not in your paid listing section, and you find that you are getting bookings from the organic section, the only reason it's just like your paid search, right? You've got your search engine marketing, your pay-per-click marketing that you've been doing with your digital agency for 10, 20 years now, right? That's your paid SEM. And then you have your SEO, search engine optimization, your organic listings that come below that, which is all driven by making sure you've got the right content, keywords, and different things like that, right? If somebody is going to your SEO, it is likely because they were looking for something that they didn't find under the SEM. Most
Hmm.
of the time, SEM is where that traffic is coming from, unless they didn't find what they were looking for. So the same thing applies over here in the meta section. I've got my initial listing of the top four points of sale that Google's presenting me. Did I find what I was looking for? Either A, I wanted to book with the brand direct, which is a thing. People do prefer to book direct. Or B, there's a little note on the bottom where up here on the top four, I've got rates at $300. And there's a little note on the bottom that says more rates from $149. Yeah, I'm going to click on that. Right. And so then that comes down below. And now I find, oh, here's that rate at 149 with some weird travel agency I've never heard of before, usually a bed bank wholesaler, which brings in the other part with the organics. There's the pros and cons to that organic section. The con is that everybody now can throw availability in there unless you have specifically within your wholesale agreements told them they cannot. So that
Right.
becomes a dumping ground, a wild west for every bed bank and wholesaler that has excess inventory. Just shove it over there into the Google organic section. Doesn't cost me a CPC. All I've got to do is connect it and let's see if we can sell a few.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny as you're saying through those processes is that one of the things that when I first approached handling Metasearch for clients was that we said, okay, we're gonna offer this based on how many channels we're going to control for them because it is a monitoring process, keeping hand on the tiller, so to speak. You one thing I've learned from working with you is when you see a lot of traffic, you don't see the conversions going up with it in close tandem because it is such a point of conversion for when people are using it for that's a red flag to go. Let me. Why are we getting the interest but not the revenue?
Yeah.
And you
Mhm.
dive into it. The 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 thing we did with the channels because the platform we use has several different channels on it was well we're gonna say you pay us this much to do this much time to do three platforms and we're gonna say Google definitely a big 800 pound gorilla, probably TripAdvisor another one that's there, so forth, and Bing. I've literally thrown that concept out the window because one thing I've learned with you, because when we first started turning on projects, was all right, we're going to shut all these off, and you're like, why? Because we didn't say we're going to do these. You don't know where the business is coming from.
Right.
If at the very least, until you have a cycle of business to understand it from, let them run to see where they come in through
Right.
first. And that was something that I learned from working with you was the, you know, just leave the door open, see who walks in. And from where. And then after time, if you need to yield your budget because you have limited funding, there's places you should say, well, I'm not just going to let this bleed on traffic.
Right.
I'll
That's
turn it
absolutely
down.
right. Yeah.
You know,
Because that's one thing I see frequently is I'll have a budget per channel. Why? If you could get that booking from TripAdvisor or even Bing for that matter, if you can get that booking from Bing, do you not want to?
right.
Now, if that booking from Bing is not giving you the return that you need for it, don't restrict it by the budget, restrict it by the campaign settings. So
Got
now
it.
go in there and just bid lower on that. Look at your day of week patterns, your length of stay, your booking windows, all those different metrics on different channels. Every channel has slightly different variations of them. But those are things that you should be doing to manage your budget rather than putting a cap on the budget. Leave the budget there, go in and control the campaign.
And that's another thing I also learned by working with you on this is that my first reaction was cap that. We're not going to spend more than that in that space as my first reaction to its productivity.
Mhm.
And you're the first to say, well, yes, you can, but it might be preferable if you marginalize what the campaign is functioning as. Maybe go into your traffic pattern, which these platforms now allow you to look at to
Yep.
do, and say, well, you're getting a lot of traffic Monday through Thursday, but no conversions. Your conversions from this channel pretty much sit on Thursday, Fridays. So shove down what you even do, or even reduce your exposure to nothing on those days that traffic is just
Right.
burning your money, and let the days that you do have productivity of traffic still run. So it's not just saying I'm only going to spend this money on this channel, Bing, let's say, but I'm going to go over and mitigate how that money is being spent on this channel, which is yield.
Yep.
And it all of this conversation, because I only have you for another 5 minutes,
Less than
uh, is
three.
based 3 minutes. 3 minutes is on the idea of controlling and running functionally an account rather than letting it just run itself. And I'll let you burn the last 3 minutes since I have with you on it on what you might want to talk about on this.
Yeah, so well, we've covered a lot of it actually. Understanding the different channels have different metrics that you can control them by. Google, of course, being the most robust of all of those. TripAdvisor pre-COVID, TripAdvisor was starting to really fall in terms of its importance in Metasearch. And by when I say fall, I mean the battle for second place. Google is always going to dominate first place, right? So now who's the battle for second place? And Trivago was surpassing TripAdvisor pre-COVID. Then COVID hit, and Trivago pulled all the marketing dollars. No international travelers. The Trivago guy went bye bye, and now TripAdvisor has that strong second place finish. But again, understanding the metrics for your audience, uh, where TripAdvisor works well, where it doesn't. It works well with destination resorts and very touristy type of properties. It does not work well for that roadside motel in Montana. That's
Right.
not where we're going on TripAdvisor. But Google, on the other hand, that roadside motel in Montana, yeah, works great. Click, click, book. I'm done. I'm out of here. That's
Right.
fantastic, right? So, and I could go through different variables that we don't have time for, but talking about kayak Trivago being WeGo for that matter. Everybody has a niche that they fall into, and understanding what that is and what your demographics are going to look like from that channel.
Very true. Dean, I appreciate the fact that I even got 30 minutes to banter around what I basically baited you into getting into. So that's cool. I'm
Well
glad
done.
you saw the bait and came to the. But no, I appreciate it always. We will have to have a continuing conversation about this with you because, as you said, not to glaze over the other channels by any means, but they all have value for all different reasons. And I mean that from logistics that you pointed out to me that some platforms have accessibility and inventory that other platforms just don't have.
Yeah.
And from that, you have different ways of producing. So, all good stuff for it. Dean, for people to find you, where do they find you? Where can they go? All that kind of cool stuff.
Basecampmeta.com, or find me on LinkedIn under Dean Schmidt.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to let you go get prepped for the call that I interrupted you from getting to.
No worries. Take care. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate your time.
Cheers.
Well, that was Dean Schmidt, Basecamp Meta, and as you can tell by the conversation, my collaborator, confidant when it comes to Metasearch. The things that we didn't talk to while he was with us that I want to kind of go back and address on some concern, some things, is some of the ways of approaching Metasearch. If you're not already currently doing it, and if you're currently doing, to evaluate what you're doing and see what options might be existing. Most people's exposure to Metasearch is based on what has been offered to them via platforms like a Sojourn, Synexis, Adara, Trip, Travel Trip, or whatever. People that are saying we're doing Metasearch, kind of like what PR agencies used to do when digital marketing was first rolling out. Oh, we do digital marketing too. It's a way to make sure that they're not missing out on a revenue opportunity by offering a service level. However, that service level is commensurate upon their education and skill level. A lot of times, especially the way it's configured with a lot of these platforms, they'll integrate it into their current contract with you, saying, "Oh, well, you know what? We may not modify what you're paying us per month, but we'll adjust for it because nothing's free as to how they get their money from doing it, which usually is a stronger commission model for this." And as Dean pointed out, there is some gray zone that if you're unaware, in Google in particular, that there's an organic contribution to it, they can take credit for organic creation by having put you into the platform, the organic revenue for it, which falls under the contract guidelines. They're not doing anything illegal. They're just taking credit for something they actually directly did not influence by running the campaign for you. By creating the campaign, it gave you that opportunity. So they feel like they can charge commission on it. But that was business you were going to get because you were on the platform, not because of some strategy that they did for you that you were technically paying the commission for. So knowing the granularity of how the process works, knowing the granularity of the channel itself helps you determine what is your best solution. If you're a revenue manager, and this is a realm of revenue management, that remember that combination between marketing and revenue management, that convergence that we've talked about so often, and then now is a reality of everyday life, where marketing and revenue management works together with the data and the tools that are most applicable between both of them. Revenue management needs to use Metasearch as a tool. As I said in the statement from Lisa McGivney, that uh, if you were to go over and say, if I told you there was a risk-free direct booking channel that can drive an average of 8% of total web bookings, 8% of your total web bookings, which we know is such a large number of our overall contribution of top line revenue, and with an average 5% conversion rate, meaning that for everybody that came and saw you, 5% of them actually did purchase with you. Would you not take it? And that's what Metasearch really represents as a channel of contribution. However, if your revenue management is not a person that wants hands on the tiller, that doesn't want to go in and modify the bidding and the rate strategy, which is really more of a marketing realm of like, okay, marketing, we're going to use Metasearch. You control the campaigns. It has to maintain this threshold of productivity, and it can't go above this threshold of cost. Those are the parameters. Those are the bumpers. In all campaigns for all marketing, those are your bumpers. It has to produce this much, and it can't cost more than this. That is different than what we do with OTAs, which is we'll take whatever business they give us and we'll just pay for what's produced. What you're not realizing is a metasearch, you have a very strong influence on your ability to drive business to you. The part that we kind of glazed over was all the extra value of having direct bookings with you that are created. Your ability to have direct data of the guest itself rather than third party, and you don't get the full data. You know who they are, you know where they're from, you know how their conditions of acquisition was for you. They know what you know what they did when they were with you, and you can create a residual lifetime value relationship with them, which has additional value beyond the single transaction that they've created. That's already a given. That's already in the pile. That's table stakes when it comes to direct channel. The idea of Metasearch, and Dean pointed this out, was for people to use the platform. We've actually created that beast. The platform is I already know who you are, I already know where you are, I already know what you are. What I don't know is whether you have availability at a price that I want to pay. And that is the lane of Metasearch. Is I know what you are when I see in your listing. I can't explain the universe of our resort in 25 characters on a single line under my Metasearch listing. You'll have to know more about me than just that. And if the rate was the bait, and you saw that I had a great lower rate than everybody else, and that got you to discover me, albeit good, but that's not the real primary. That's a secondary reason to Metasearch value. So if they know who I am, and it's really the point of whether they're going to decide to stay with me. Metasearch puts us right front and center, top of line, no fold kind of stuff. You pay to be up there. Now, obviously, if you're not paying to be up in the Metasearch space or in Google, you're organically still there. But as Dean pointed out, you're in a Wild West function. You're in there with everybody else that you've allowed to sell your hotel. The only thing that stands out for you is you are the official website. We'll continue to say that you are the official website. You're the official source. So that stands out compared to everybody else trying to sell you. And that is a validation factor, again, as Dean pointed out, when it comes to, well, I'd much rather do business with the property itself than Joe's Yahoo travel agency that I have no idea who they are that just happens to have a few bucks less, inadvertently wrong to do so because they're selling wholesale rates and doing that where I don't know who am I buying it from, whether I have recourse, can I cancel, what's the cancellation policy? All those questions pop up in a moment when you're looking at them and going, yeah, it's worth the $5, $10, whatever. I'm going to go with the hotel because I'll be there. I can talk to somebody when I'm there about any problems that I have. So that has its value. Now, going back a little farther, oh, sorry, let me clarify one thing made a statement of, and that was we've created this beast. Hospitality as an industry online has been horrendous about its ability to describe what we do. We've gotten better, but we're still nowhere close to what retail and other entities online do. We still have a difficulty in sharing what we are in a way that people want to hear, in a way that they can discover online. Our websites are bulky, our brand sites are innate. I mean, they're just terrible. It's all about selling the brand and not about the guest experience at all. Um, and if we do have a good website for our hotel, be it independent or not, the content on it has to be in a navigation kind of way, and it has to be done well that everybody that was looking for us finds what they're looking for, and that's very hard to do on a website. So we have created the need for brevity online. They have found from a variety of sources our existence, whether it be our website or not. We hope that we contribute in that attribution string, but likelihood is we were one of many places that people went to discover where they would like to stay, and we were one of them. Through that process of discovery, they are now we've been put into their mix of consideration, close to the ZMA, zero moment of transaction, the Google thing. Um, and then at that point, our incentive is in Metasearch because now they know who we are, they know where we are, we know what we are, and so forth, is to see how we share and show up for what's available in the market. And Metasearch does that better than other platform mediums right now. Even the SEM that you're doing for your paid placements in Google and Bing and everything else, people know that you paid to be in that spot. It doesn't mean you're the best choice. You're certainly not just talking about rate at that point. So I have to click on that to find out what your rate. Then I have to click on put my dates in. And I have to click on what the rates are and see what the promotions are. That's 3, 4 clicks into compared to looking over to the right and seeing Metasearch and there's my rate compared to everybody else's rate, OTAs, and everybody else is trying to sell me. And if I pay my placement, I'm there, and it's a clear decision. They don't need to be re-educated about our product. They just need the decision of whether they want to buy our product at that point. And Metasearch has a very powerful point to that. So like I said, we have created the scenario where Metasearch is a solution to a problem that we have never solved other ways. We've gotten better at it, but we've never solved it in certain ways. Let's go back to Metasearch and something we first started a conversation with Dean about, and that was the unknown factors. There are three unknown factors if you've never done Metasearch. How many people are looking for you? What is it going to cost to get them to come and look at you? And three, what is the conversion of those people that did look at you, discovered you, and actually booked with you? Those three factors, okay, are unknown entities. Unfortunately, they are three of the most principled values to determine what you are going to commit as finances for this. Going into the real world of how we face this, we have those that have control over the funding to what we do. And then we have those that have control over the decision of how to allocate that funding. And then we have the process of determining the value of what was spent from convincing the people that had the control of the money to do that: owners, management, operations. From that, you have to answer questions. Okay, so I'm going to give you X dollars. You're asking me for $10,000. What am I going to get for it? We don't know. What? Yeah, we don't know who's looking for us. We don't know how much it's going to cost to be in front of them. We don't know how many people are actually going to buy from us. We don't know. Mm. And you want me to just give you $10,000 to find out? I'm paying $10,000 for your education. Yeah, no, I'm going to give you 1,000, maybe. Tell me what you can do with it. That's a real world conversation. That really happens. And you're looking at like $1,000. We're not even going to be able to afford to be in the space to find that out because we will burn our money, not even knowing what we're burning it for. So you have to go and figure out ways to answer those three pieces of data that you don't know, and that is traffic, cost of conversion, conversion. Knowing that there are symbiotic relationships between what Metasearch does, bid process, you're paying per bid per click, CPC, and you have a total budget that you're willing to spend towards that CPC that you set up, is identical to your paid campaigns, saying Google or Bing. But let's just take Google for right now. In Google, you know that increased demand to your market means increased cost to get in front of them because you're competing with other people. When you are in season, everybody in your market, including everybody outside your market, like OTAs coming in, raise the rate of CPC because more people are willing to spend more money to make sure they show up better for all the people that are looking for it. It's demand of market. Okay. So in season, it's probably 30, 40, 50% higher than off season when it comes to cost. So in order to p- present yourself, be higher in the rankings for paid ads or paid placement, okay, you need to spend more per click to get that prioritization. This is not me re-educating you on paid campaigns. This is just stating the obvious of what paid campaigns operate as. Metasearch operates in the same way. The higher the demand to market, the higher the cost to show up higher in that market. So if you're paying more for paid campaigns, there is a high propensity of correlation, mathematical correlation, that you're going to end up paying higher in Metasearch for that same time period because you're in that business cycle of demand. So knowing that there's a correlation between increased spend in paid campaigns and increased spend in paid Metasearch, now using that as a starting point, looking at your Google paid campaigns and saying, hey, what is the variation between low to high for the time frame that I'm looking at to run this campaign, to know what am I actually spending in CPC. Now, this is where you have to begin to create similarities. You have to look at your top 10, 15, 20 keywords, depending on how many words are primarily used for your volume of traffic. And if you don't know how to do keyword research, well, that's a conversation you hire people like me for. Or if you know it, then this is great. Look at the research of looking at your keywords and looking at the volume of traffic that each of your keywords has, and looking at the value of cost for each of those keywords for the volume of traffic that is there. Now, we know that there is what's called a percentage of voice, meaning how many people that are totally looking for what you would show up for will get the opportunity to see you in their discovery. 100% voice is almost non-existent. It has to be a very small volume of traffic for you to be able to acquire 100% voice, meaning you show up for every time somebody's looking for something that is related to what you are. More often in high demand markets, you're getting fractionals of those. If you can get into the teens and 20s in a high volume place, a high demand destination market with a lot of competitors, that's pretty good because you're showing up well compared to everybody else that could show up. In a market that you're a big fish, you might be in the 40, 50% range, 60% range. But at some point, you get a diminished value return as to how much you show up for versus what you actually benefit from that exposure. That diminished value of return is based on dollar spend versus dollar acquired. Another mathematical thing, another conversation. Actually, we've talked about it in previous shows. So, looking at your CPC, looking at your top keywords, 15 to 20 of them or so, you have to do what's called a weighted mean average, saying, okay, this word is used, hotel or downtown hotel XYZ location, 100,000 times. Okay. How much of that, and it's very expensive. It's $5, $6, $7 a click to be in that space. How much of that is actually coming to um, your site? Well, we know that Google Analytics has blinded us to keyword usage a long time ago. It gives us attribution springs. The only way to really determine the value of that keyword is, have you ever bidded on it before, and or look into your ad campaigns in Google and see what did it cost you to be in that space and what did you get from it? And you create a correlation of return on value, ROI. I spent this much, this is the traffic, this is how much it cost me to get it. It gives you hard numbers. It cost me $5 a click. I got 100 clicks. I got total traffic of 1,000 people. So I have a conversion of 10%. That's really cool. Those numbers are going to get used for what we're going to do for Metasearch. So you do a weighted mean average of all, say your top 10 keywords. Let's keep it simple. Top 10 keywords, weighted average, which means basically total volume of traffic, cost of that traffic in comparison to the total amount of traffic of all the keywords. So if one keyword has 100,000 searches per month, another keyword has 1,000 searches per month, the ratio is basically 100 to 1. Actually, 100, yeah, 100 to 1. So um, you weight the averages out, okay, to say on average, the weighted mean average is this many people between all these keywords, and this is the weighted mean average of the value of the cost per click based on those words, based on volume of traffic. That's going to be important because you're going to take other numbers that you already have data on. You're going to take you have to round these numbers out, because getting down to a particular month gets too much granularity in the accuracy of this. So you're going to take annual ADR, you're going to take annual length of stay, you're going to take annual occupancy, and you're going to take over each one of the months and look at all that and say, this is my annual ADR, and this is my annual occupancy, this is my annual length of stay. And you're going to create a value of conversion. You're going to say, based on my average ADR, based on my average length of stay, my acquisition value is this. Then you take your occupancy percentage of your total inventory available for the whole year, okay, which is your total room count multiplied by the number of days, basic math. And you're going to say that my occupancy was such and such. So this production, okay, if I make one conversion on average, okay, say it's $100 ADR, 2 night stay, that's $200 acquisition. Every reservation is worth $200. Okay, so now you have that number. Now you're going to look at your keyword stuff and say, well, on average, my CPC is $1.50. Okay, so if you're at $1.50 per click for getting somebody, and your conversion is at 5%, which is really high, but let's just leave it at that, then you know how much it costs for you to acquire somebody overall. You apply that math to your value of acquisition and say, okay, based on this, I have to have these many reservations to make this much money. Okay. But you're also seeing your total traffic and your total conversion of your paid campaigns that, as we talked about earlier, are a direct correlation to what would probably happen in Metasearch. Meaning, as prices go up in your paid campaigns, your prices will go up in Metasearch. As your volume goes up in paid campaigns, your volume will probably go up in Metasearch. So now you have a benchmark number, which says, on average, this is how much I will probably have to spend per click for this much traffic to create this much conversion at this value. So you have, in effect, solved a value proposition for the three unknown variables before you ever started the campaign. And that is, how many people are probably looking for us? Answer that based on symbiotic relationship to paid campaigns. How much do I have to spend to get them? Again, symbiotic to what the average cost relationship is, average weighted mean, to what you spend in paid campaigns to get them. And what is the potential conversion value of those people? Again, based on the symbiotic relationship of paid campaigns. We've done this over and over for our clients, and it has bellwethered our process. It has benchmarked our process. We are within tolerance, statistical tolerance, of being accurate by guessing this way and determining what the value is to what our Metasearch campaigns would be. wrenches in the system, and this is something we discussed with Dean on the show just a few minutes ago, is there is logistics issues. We had a crippling effect that the default platform that was used in the booking engine for one of our clients was doing this unnecessary overlay because it was in the default functions of the platform. And as all of us know, getting a hold of somebody in these internet booking engines and getting them actively solving your problem is a time consumption. Hi, we have this problem. Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, we'll send this to your rep. Oh, the rep will get back with you. But this is the problem. What is the problem? Then we can have 7 to 10 days can go by just in the dialogue to get to the point that they understand what it is you're asking them to do. They've diagnosed what it is and determined what it is that they need to do to fix it. That's a 7 to 14 day window of things. During that time, your conversions tank because people go, as Dean says, that's the rate you're offering me. I click it, and all of a sudden I'm coming over and there's an overlay asking for a promo code. Uh, I don't click, I'm gone. And even if they see through the overlay and see the rate behind it, sometimes they don't even know that they have to get past this or whether they're even allowed to get past this. You lose those people. For the people that are tenacious enough and click through the popover, then you might have a rate sorting issue where the wrong rate's showing on top and you have to discover the rate that was bringing you there. You lose people from that. So that conversion degradation skews the statistics of what you should be getting to. Those things happen. And it is growing pains of what you do when you first start campaigns. The cool part about the campaigns is allowing them to run. You begin to determine one, how accurate you were in your calculations of determining how close you were doing this to what you thought you were going to do. But you begin to, what as Dean pointed out in the discussion as well, you begin to see the fluctuations of what is being produced, the days of demand versus the days of traffic. And I mean, the instance of conversion. So you may have a lot of traffic Monday through Thursday with very little conversion. Why spend money for a visibility you're not getting revenue from? The same too, and this is another diagnosis of having somebody granularly going into it. You're looking and saying, okay, so we're getting traffic correct, we're getting conversions correct, so that doesn't fit. Okay, traffic is high on Fridays and Saturdays, and only conversions we're getting are Fridays and Saturdays, but our conversion is so low. Why? Next step, where is it coming from? Well, one of the functions of platforms that do meta search is it's going to say, this is my desktop, this is my tablet, and this is my mobile. Okay, let's look at it. Well, mobile is really high in traffic, but they're the least converting, and yet they're the most expensive to get the traffic visibility. Desktop has lower traffic, higher conversion, lesser cost. We need to mitigate how much we're spending in the mobile space display of our meta search because it's not producing at the level we need. Now, two things happen from that. Either it fixes the problem and you're still getting the value of the mobile contribution, or it fixes the problem and you're not getting the value of the mobile conversion. So it gives you the answer of, well, in order for me to be in mobile, I have to actually pay for the exposure because the parts we still don't familiar with, and this goes to the attribution string, is how much was discovered on mobile that went to desktop for conversion. Did we throttle that? And that only happens by adjusting your mobile and seeing if it impacted your desktop. Is there a correlation between mobile traffic and desktop traffic to conversion? Did it wash out people's interest on mobile, but those people that did decide they wanted to convert went back in on their desktop, used Meta again on their desktop, and came over? And then, of course, there's another bleed to that, and that is, did mobile meta search drive them to our website because they got exposed to our rates and so on? Oh, this is pretty cool. I want to know more about the hotel. I'm kind of familiar with it, but this seems pretty interesting. I know the rate exists, so I can always go back to it. Let me go on my desktop and or mobile to the website and see. And that comes from tracking and tagging correctly to your website. Did Metasearch drive the traffic to your website for conversions at that point? So tracking and analytics is critically important for that as well. So that is the way of figuring out the three things that you don't know, which is total volume, cost of traffic, and conversion of that traffic. It gives you a great benchmark. We have a calculator that we use. Um, I haven't put it online like I've done my other calculators, mainly because it's kind of like a Rosetta Stone of something that, as you can see, this works for Meta, but it also works for a lot of other stuff. If you can create the math metrics, the matrix of this, and say, if I can create these correlations of weighted mean averages on these things, and I can determine volume of traffic, cost of traffic, conversion value of traffic, this applies to a lot more channels than just applying it to Metasearch, because there is usually that same correlation between traffic on paid versus traffic elsewhere on other channels. Your demand interest is up. You're the belle of the ball. You're in your peak season, whether it be spring break season for those that benefit from spring break, or whether it's summer season for those that benefit from summer season, or ski season for those that benefit from ski season. They all have correlation values. the ability of seeing traffic go up and down, demand versus lack of demand, has the influence with all these factors and tools. So there you have the keys of the kingdom, how to figure this stuff out. Not hard, time consuming, and functional by any means, because then you start creating what's called trend performance patterns. And that is confidence factors related to the insights that you have. You start scraping data from other places, and like the airlift traffic and mechanical airlift traffic to your market, and feeder market traffic and feeders to your traffic. You can begin to determine value of channel, value cost of channel, volume of traffic from channel, and those start developing ways of creating marketing budgets based on hard data of demand cycle, cost of channel, and acquisition of channel. And that gets really fun on places, platforms like Tableau and so forth. So, and that comes from data metrics from your website. So that's just a rabbit hole we're not going to go down today, but we have talked about it in times past if you're ever interested. So with that, I think that kind of wraps up our conversation about Metasearch, devils in the details. A lot of people don't realize that there's a value proposition to running your own Metasearch. If you do get to put it on your own MCC, Master Control Center for your Google, connecting it to your Google audiences that you're using for your paid campaigns is wicked cool, because you can use that data from the audiences to better refine your meta strategies, as to how you yield yourself. There are some very cool tools, especially in Google, when it comes to controlling your push on dates that you have reduced inventory. You don't want to sell that inventory on certain dates at lower rates, because you don't need to. The demand is there. You're trying to high yield your remaining inventory. So for that reason, you don't need to be advertising Metasearch on those dates. So you have means to controlling those that say, if somebody is looking for certain dates, those dates, I don't want to spend much money on. Actually, no money. I don't want to show up. I don't want people to even look at Metasearch for those dates. They're going to have to come to me to get the rates that I'm asking for those dates, because I have high yield on those dates. Google allows you to do that. And this goes back to the discussion of who's doing your meta search. Because when you're dealing with these platforms that are offering meta search, their motivation is the commission. They're going to sell whatever they can of you to get their money for doing it. And that means, from a conversion point of view, that they're going to stomp over showing whatever they need to show in meta search, regardless of whatever you're doing in your own paid or organic programs. They're going to push selling you in deference to you selling yourself, because that's where they make their money. And they don't have, if you ever get the chance for people pitching you meta search, ask them who's running it, what is their criteria, do they ask me questions about what my revenue yield is for right now, do they ask me what my strategies are for the next 30 days? Are they modifying my bid structure for my hotel on increments of demand by day, rate by day, inventory by day? I can absolutely guarantee you none of them say yes, because they don't. They turn it on, it's put into a hopper, it's one of several, and it's just, we turn the light on. If moth shows up or people show up, the light's on. That's what they do. They functionally create the space. There is a benefit to it, as Dean pointed out. If that's all you can do, you can't have somebody run this for you or pay somebody to run it for you. Then at least do that, because there is, and as you pointed out with Google, there is an organic value to this already. Just being in the space means you have residual value for being in the space. The unfortunate part of it is you're probably going to go pay commissions on business that really they didn't do anything to acquire other than making sure you're on the platform. So these are the details that you need to do. And as he pointed out just briefly, but it's a huge issue in your contracts with wholesalers, the exclusion of their ability to sell inventory outside of the spectrum of the relationship directly with you, meaning only they can book the inventory you've made available at the rates you've given them. They can't sell it, they can't affiliate it, they can't second party it. Only the relationship exists for the wholesale relationship that you've given with them. That has to be a part of your contract negotiations. We're going to come up on another contract negotiations come this summer. You have to make sure that that is a key component of your conversations. So there it is. Metasearch, devil's in the details. It was a pleasure to have Dean pop back on the show with us, even if it be at a brief time, 30 minutes. I'm sure as time goes forward, we'll have more refined conversations again about Metasearch. It has come into its own in the sense of its value proposition, its contribution value, and its ability, as we pointed out, three factors. What you pay for is what you get. Organically, you get with what you didn't plan for. And the third is the commissions you save from doing it. I agree with you, Joshua. Joshua, for those who aren't seeing us on the other channels, mentioned the comment: these hotel brands need to connect Metasearch and revenue management tools to match the spend to need dates automatically. I would love to say that. Nobody has done that. It still requires a hand on the tiller, but that's what you're paying for by having somebody to do that. we quickly learned the value proposition of us doing it for clients was it's not about just getting them access and turning it on. It was like, holy geez, there's all these things we should be able to do for them, yielding it according to demand, determining where they're bleeding money for traffic. Um, right? Yeah, let's do it and retire. Be right. Working on it actually, because the tough part of it is, and this goes back to all of the incestuous software platform SaaS systems that are out there right now, they are unlikely to connect to somebody else and more likely to try to do it themselves internally, but they don't high prioritize those solutions until they see the monetization model high enough that says if we made this, it will generate so much money for us to do that. It's wise for us to invest in it now where we're not making money in the development stage. But oftentimes we've seen this from every platform, any IBE, anything that's out there, is they offer this suite of services that only they can offer. And their suite of services are inept in compared to other suites of services or other branches of service that do so much better if they were only allowed to connect. I think that's always going to be a problem. Now, Joshua, to your point about doing a platform that does this, it's not, I wouldn't say it's not hard. It's not impossible to do because if you can extract, there's some great tools we've talked about on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, excuse me, about data scraping. There's some very robust new tools that have come out on the ability to pull data and extract it. And then, of course, platforms like Pabbly and IFTTT and Zapier and so forth, where you can connect despairing sources and connect data sources and put them into data sheets and use those data sheets to extract the data. You can create these correlations. You can take revenue yield and look at your channel contribution, what you would cost to get it, what you're wanting to derive from it, and how much money you have to spend to do it. That right now an Excel sheet does that. Um, the problem is a lot of people don't take the time or have the time, or at this stage of the understanding of Metasearch, the value of the Metasearch. For them right now, their simple decision is, do I do Metasearch? Click switch. What we're talking about and have talked about today is it's not just clicking a switch, clicking a switch. Yeah, there we go. It's what do you do with the light? How bright do you turn it? How dim do you turn it? How many lights do you turn on? And that requires moderation. Somebody handling this stuff. So it's a value proposition, as I keep referring to in the article, and I'll have that in the show notes from Liza McGevney, the link to it anyway. And that is, if I told you there was a risk-free direct booking channel that can drive an average of 8% of your total web contribution at a 5% conversion, would you do it? That's what we're talking about. Metasearch. That's what it does. And for people to look at it, it's like, oh, well, that's just an accessory to what you're already doing in digital marketing, or that's already an accessory to what the brands are doing. It's not, because nobody does it at the level that it should be done for the real revenue value that it has and represents. So, Josh, thank you, Joshua. Thank you for being with me, and thanks for the comments. For everyone that I was not paying attention to on the platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, on and off. Thank you so much for all your comments that I'll go back to and find. Obviously, anybody that has additional comments and or questions, you can reach me at lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. I answer each and every email associated with both the live TV show here and the podcast. And when I say TV show, I really do mean TV show. We have a TV station. For those who don't know, Hospitality Channel. It is on your Roku, your Apple, your Google, your Amazon. It's on. It's an app on your phones and tablets and everything, Android, everything. We're everywhere. There's a paid side and a free side. The live show we do here, is always on the free side. You can always watch all of our episodes for that. And if you want to just see it online, you can go to hospitalitychannel.tv. It's like reruns of Lucy. Every show we've done for over 8 years is there, and links to all of them. And we're segmenting them out according to topics and guests and things over time. We're getting better and better with the researchability of the data because we have such a large database of shows and content that we've hit. But it's over there at hospitalitychannel.tv. You can definitely go over and check us out there, as all of our podcasts are as well. And as a reminder, everyone, we will have a podcast. We'll have a quick recap of this show in addition to getting into some really cool tools, which we always do, functionality tools and techniques to use them. And then, like I said, we'll do a recap of the show and a little bit of newsworthy conversation to that. So with that, thank you to everybody that we know. We're in at least 39 countries right now. We translate this show into 11 languages. Thank you for everybody that watches and listens. So we rebroadcast this show every Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Sydney time, and 11:30 a.m. Wednesday, UK time, London time. So if you missed us because of the time zones, you'll catch us hopefully at a better time zone every Wednesday, as we always do. So with that, my name is Lauren Gray. Thank you for the privilege of your time, and I look forward to talking to you all next week. a fewer number can achieve the next level. We have this culling mentality as to rising to the top. It's an actual organizational chart